afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Stock Market Today for Wednesday, March 19th. It's Alissa Coram here, and stocks seemingly breathing a sigh of relief after today's Fed announcement holding rates put, but the market moving on commentary from Jerome Powell. And joining me now to discuss, he's got all the info on what went down Fed headline wise, is my colleague Ken Shreve. And you've also got some tickers for us to discuss today as well.
Yes, indeed. Good afternoon, and nice response by the market. I think you said it right. Just market breathed a sigh of relief. Powell still sounding pretty positive about this economy. Stocks took that opportunity to rally. So I want to take a look at LandBridge in the oil and gas space. That's ticker LB. Among biotech stocks, let's take a look at Axsome Therapeutics, AXSM, and finally Dutch Brothers, a former leader that trying to get back above its 50-day moving average. We'll see if the stock still has the stuff to lead.
All right, we will check in on those stocks, but first, let's take a closer look at those major indexes with the strength today. So the Nasdaq closing up 1.4% on the day, edging off intraday highs. And as we know, on Fed days, there can be a lot of volatility, and that there was. So we did come off highs, but still a close up 1.4%. Meanwhile, the S&P 500 also in a rally attempt, up 1.1% on the day. The Dow notching a gain of 0.9%, backing away a little bit from 42,000 and the 200-day line. And then the beaten down Russell 2000 up 1.5% or so, headed into the final stretch of the session. So, Ken, we saw some notable gains today. Still a lot of progress that we want to see on the upside, but today was another step in the right direction.
Yes, it was, and pretty easy volume comparison to Tuesday. But you can see it looks like Nasdaq volume is going to end up being just a touch higher than what we saw Tuesday. So, by definition, this is probably going to qualify as a follow-through day. But you can see the Nasdaq closed off its highs. Looks like it's kind of in the middle part of its range. And if you just pull up that intraday chart on the Nasdaq, that 5-minute chart, you can see that big volume spike during the last 5 minutes of the session here. So that might have skewed volume a little bit, but it did look like it caused Nasdaq volume to be a little bit higher. So we'll see. I'm writing the big picture today. We'll
Important
meet.
day.
Yeah,
Important
we'll
job
meet
on an
after.
important day.
Exactly. Meet after this video and discuss what
Yes.
we're going to do with our exposure levels. But looks like on the NYSE for the S&P 500, we got lower volume, but that looks that's a pretty close call as well. It's not showing it yet on the chart, but volume, yeah, volume just was very light most of the day, and then the
Mhm.
Fed announcement came, and volume just as expected got heavier and heavier. I think the market, like you said, breathed a sigh of relief. Chairman Powell is still talking about, a strong labor market. He did acknowledge a slight slowdown in consumer spending, and he also acknowledged a lot of uncertainty that the stock market is trying to deal with, and uncertainty for the Fed too, in terms of what these Trump tariffs are going to do in terms of inflation. Um, it was kind of a mixed picture from Jay Powell. He did boast or boost the core inflation outlook this year to 2.8% from 2.5. On the
Mhm.
surface, that doesn't sound good, but again, Powell is talking about inflation being transitory. Any inflation that is caused by tariffs should be short-lived. He also downgraded the GDP growth outlook for this year to 1.7% from a 2.1 estimate in December. So, sort of a mixed picture from the Fed, but
Mhm.
he is really still talking about a resilient economy here, and stocks took that opportunity to rally.
Yeah, perhaps that transitory element to the inflation related to the tariffs, maybe that seen as a positive, since the tariffs have been such a drag on the market in recent weeks. also just reaffirming that the Fed does plan on cutting rates still. Because I think there had started to be some voices out there. Well, if inflation keeps creeping back up, is the Fed going to raise rates at some point? So perhaps a little bit of a sigh of relief that that is the plan, even though it still is somewhat a wait and see approach.
Yeah, it's a lot of uncertainty out there, and Fed Chair Powell acknowledged as much, and we know that as investors just watching the financial markets that we just went through a pretty serious distribution phase on the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq, a pretty sharp 3 week drop that the market is trying to recover from. I was just looking at the kind of stocks rising in volume and stocks
Mhm.
falling in volume today, and really the breakout landscape is still quite light. So even if it ends up being a follow through day for the Nasdaq, this is one of those follow through days where you got to proceed very cautiously and acknowledge still a lot of risks out there and leadership. Outside of the leadership that we've been talking about in Chinese stocks, insurance stocks, gold stocks, even some biotechs. We'd like to see kind of more stocks emerging here and giving good buy signals, but they still seem to be in
Yeah.
short supply.
Absolutely. Okay, so Ken, in terms of what we want to see from here, first of all, very important for traders out there to read your big picture article tonight because we still have final volume to analyze. Like you said, market exposure. We have to be thinking about those things as well. You'll be adding a lot of color, for the days ahead for traders. But it seems like for the S&P, and the Nasdaq, we want to see more progress, right? We want to continue this momentum to the upside. And then if we can do that, how do these indexes act around that 200-day? Do we hit resistance there? Can we get above that level? And can we stay above that level?
Yeah, this is what happens when you get a very sharp decline that we recently saw for 3 weeks in the Nasdaq and the S&P 500. S&P is going to try to rally here. Obviously, that first level is going to be the 200-day moving average. Again, volume a close call on the S&P 500. The percentage gain, probably enough to be a follow through day. But again, we just need to analyze the final volume. Looks like NYSE volume is going to be a little bit lower, but you have lots of overhead supply issues here for the S&P 500. So a lot of people that were buying on the way down when the S&P was really correcting sharply off its high. Well, as the index rallies back, some of these index ETF traders are going to sell just to break even on their positions as they were buying on the way down. So that's what overhead supply is, and it can make for a difficult environment. But if this rally is to be believed, we'd expect to see more higher volume gains and less in the way of higher volume declines. Still very early in this rally here. Looks like the Nasdaq is in position for a follow through day, but then you have to ask, okay, what's out there to buy? Maybe some opportunities here and there, but we'd certainly like to see
Yeah,
more buy prospects, but we'll be proceeding very cautiously from here.
absolutely. Okay, let's quickly check in on blue chips and small caps, Ken. The Dow at a key level.
Yeah, the Dow tried to get back above its 200-day moving average here. Tried to clear the 42,000 level. It backed off highs just like the Nasdaq did. So decent percentage gain for the Dow today, but still looks challenged here in the same position as really all of the stock indexes and Russell 2000. This is looks like day four of a rally attempt here. A nice percentage gain. But when we're looking at follow through days, we're really keeping our attention just focused on the Nasdaq and or the S&P 500. So
Mhm.
nice rally off lows for the Russell 2000. But this index has fallen the most off its high than any other index. So overhead
Yeah.
supply is still going to be a big concern here as well.
Yeah, pretty ugly out there still for small caps. Let's check in on the 10-year treasury yield, Ken.
Well, bond market looked at what Powell had to say today as probably dovish. You see interest rates really tailed off, and that 10-year yield closed near its low. Fed is still expecting to cut rates just twice this year. That did not change from its dot plot that we saw at the December meeting. So you know. Two rate cuts this year. I saw at CME FedWatch that the market is even considering that first rate cut may not come until the July meeting.
Mhm.
So it looks like June or July will be the first rate cut, and then one more after that. But you know, the Fed sees the 10-year yield at 3.9% by the end of the year. So it's right in that 3.75 to 4% range that the market is expecting. So lots of news from the Fed today. A good response by the market, but you know, was it a follow through day on the Nasdaq that conveyed strength and conviction? Yeah, I mean that remains to be seen. So
Right.
we'll take what we get and look for buy opportunities, but still a little bit cautious here.
No doubt. Okay, let's check out a couple of stocks. This is one that we've been tracking, LandBridge, ticker LB, out of the oil and gas US Explorers and Producers Group, with a breakout on the day. Some power behind this one, Ken, as it's carved the right side of the base and shown improving relative strength. Volume had been light, but until today, volume was heavy on the day with a gain of nearly 11% and that relative strength line hitting a new high. So bullish action here for Landbridge.
Well, when you see a follow through day, you want to see a lot of stocks breaking out with volume. So LandBridge definitely fit the bill. Unfortunately, it was the kind of the exception and not the rule today. Very landscape very barren in terms of breakouts. But we put LandBridge on leaderboard. This afternoon, got a good entry, just over 77. So this strengthened quite a bit. Really
Great.
classic breakout here from a double bottom base. You can see that second leg down where it hit a low of 58.77, undercut the first leg. So that served to shake out sellers in the stock, and just a good clean breakout over that 76.22 high. So just past the 5% buy zone here, but really like the revenue growth here.
Right.
Profit is expected to really ramp up this year and next. They own a lot of acreage in the Delaware Basin area of the Permian Basin in Texas and parts of New Mexico. But very interesting setup here, and we thought it was worth a shot on leaderboard.
Yeah, I was going to point out too the strength in the fundamentals, triple digit growth on the top and bottom line in the most recent quarter, which I feel like you don't always see for oil and gas stocks, at least the ones that have been showing technical strength showing up in our screens. This does appear to be one uh, with the most technical strength right now, and it seems like that's why it was picked for leaderboard.
Yes, yeah, and the group you can see the group up at 39 out of 197. So it's in the basically the top what 20%
Yep.
of our industry group ranking. So starting to see some oil and gas stocks participate here. So nice clean breakout for LandBridge, and this is just the kind of price action we like to see on leaderboard. Plus, it's a relatively new company.
Mhm.
It's only been trading since early last year. So if it fully, breaks out here, this still looks like could be an early stage move for LandBridge.
Yeah. Okay, let's take a look at AXSM. This is Axsome Therapeutics in the biotech area. And Ken, this was a stock that you flagged to us this morning that on IBD Live that you were watching, keeping a very close eye on here as this rally attempt progresses.
Really looking at the revenue growth here in recent quarters, and a company that is expected to be profitable very soon. But you can see a good growth runway for this company that has drugs that not only deal with pain but also central nervous system disorders, everything from depression and the like. So the top line growth is very strong, and again, not profitable yet, but looks like in fiscal 2026 they're going to do their first profit of 242 a share. So a lot to like here. This was another stock that recently broke out, coming down, came close to a test of its 10-week moving average last week, still showing a lot of technical strength in this market, along
Okay,
with
and
a lot
last
of other biotech stocks. Yep.
Yes, you're absolutely right. We've been seeing a lot of improvement in that area, a number of leaders cropping up. Let's go to Dutch Brothers, up 6% so far on the week. A lot of that coming from today, Ken, up 5.2% and right at that 50-day line once again.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of people are going to, continue to look at the leaders of the past rally. It might be, a Dutch Brothers, and say, well, it's was the best performing restaurant stock. I want to find a way in, and but you need to wait for these stocks to prove themselves more. There's a lot of
Mhm.
former leaders that are still struggling around their 50-day line. So, Dutch Brothers tried to move above it, got pulled down late, still closed up near its high, but this is coming after some serious volume on the downside when it broke through its 50-day moving average. Good fundamentals here too, but you want to see that accumulation distribution rating start to improve from the worst possible E. So again, if you can see some heavy volume as this stock continues to rally, it may
Right.
or may not, but just look for some conviction behind the buying, because it's going to need good volume to start to rally back to again after some pretty heavy volume on the downside. Not clear to me that Dutch Brothers is going to be able to resume its leadership, but you do want to pay attention to some of these former leaders and see if they can start rounding out the right side of these
Mhm.
the bases that are still in the early stages here.
Yeah. And a lot could depend on the overall market if this uh, rally continues and if we can see more progress to the upside, broadly speaking, out there, or if we roll over, that could have an impact on some of these chart patterns in potentially the early stages. So we'll
Yep,
continue to take
assuming
it day by day, Ken.
Yeah, exactly. And assuming we did get a follow through day on the sixth day of a rally attempt for the Nasdaq. Again, you just want to proceed proceed slowly here. If you're lightly invested, you might be able to bump up your exposure a little bit, but just keep looking at your growth screens. And if this follow through day is to be believed, we should continue to see a crop of new buy candidates in coming days and weeks. And if not, we just we take it slow, and just realize that the Nasdaq right now is still challenged.
Yeah.
There were sellers in the index late in the session, but again,
Mhm.
take it day by day, and we'll see where we're at.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Ken. We'll be sure to check out your big picture article at investors.com this afternoon for more details on today's market action, stocks to watch, and more. Thanks once again. And that is it from us for today, but it is Wednesday, so we do have our weekly Investing with IBD podcast with your host, Justin Nielsen, live at 5 p.m. Eastern today with Joe Mazzola of Charles Schwab. He's head trading and derivatives strategist. So they're going to be talking about the Fed action and portfolio strategies for the current market climate. So you can catch that live on YouTube, the recording at investors.com/videos, or later today, wherever you catch your podcasts, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or elsewhere. So we've got that coming up. And then we'll also see you in the morning on IBD Live. It'll be a very interesting show to see. Again, we have those final volume totals that we have to take into account. What is the team's updated view on portfolio exposure and stocks to watch? Tune in tomorrow morning on IBD Live, investors.com/IBD Live for all the details, starting 10 minutes before the opening bell. So we will see you there. And then we'll also see you right back here tomorrow after the close.